from where you're kneeling must seem like an 18-carat run of bad luck. Truth is, the game was rigged from the start.
I'll kill you again in hell, my friend.
If I've learned one thing during my time on YouTube so far, it's that you give the people what they want. People asked for David in Cyberpunk, and you all have asked for Arthur Morgan here, so in this video, I'll be attempting to answer the question, can you beat Fallout New Vegas as Arthur Morgan? For anyone that's been living under a rock for a bit over half a decade, Arthur Morgan is the leading protagonist in Rockstar Studios' sequel to Red Dead Redemption, aptly named Red Dead Redemption 2. Arthur is an outlaw from the tail end of the Old West, and uses a lot of the weapons you'd find in New Vegas, such as dynamite, revolvers, and repeaters. But one of the things that sets Arthur apart from other Old West characters in fiction is his Deadeye ability, an ability that allows him to slow his perception of the world down to slow motion and mark potentially dozens of targets. At the end of the targeting period, Arthur then proceeds to let off a rapid-fire barrage of bullets, hitting each of his targets with eagle-eyed precision. There's certainly more to him than that, but I honestly don't know much about the series. I know people really like him, and he fits with the Old West theme of New Vegas, which is why I put him as an option on the poll, but I've only very recently started playing Red Dead 2, and I've only done a couple of missions beyond getting to Horseshoe Overlook. That said, I'm familiar with a lot of the game's lore, including of course the 8 different endings. I'm familiar enough with Arthur as a character to know how to roleplay him, and I'm familiar enough with the Red Dead series to know that my first 2 priorities when I start the run are a cowboy hat and a revolver. With the intro done, let's get to the run. I spent about an hour trying to recreate Arthur to the best of my abilities, especially his hair, which is such a light brown it looks sandy blonde most of the time, but of course there's only so much you can do to recreate an ultra-realistic looking face model in a game full of potato faces. After that, I immediately set the game to very hard, where the difficulty slider will remain for the rest of the entire run. For my special stats, I went with 8 in strength. Arthur is shown to be quite physically strong in the numerous brawls he's fought and won, most specifically against the massive beast that was Tommy, 7 in perception for both his Deadeye shooting ability and his eagle-eye tracking ability, a 6 in endurance since Arthur had shown throughout Red Dead 2 many times that, despite his tuberculosis, he could be shot or mauled by a large animal and still keep going. I gave him a 7 in charisma due to Arthur's ability to not only persuade people to do what he wants, but more so for his natural talent with intimidation. I gave him a 5 in intelligence since he isn't school learned, having become an outlaw at only 14, but he isn't a fool either. I gave him a 6 in agility for a higher gun skill, a bump to sneak since he uses stealth sometimes while hunting deer and O'Driscolls, faster action repoint regeneration for more Deadeye, and for his in-lore high-level gunslinging abilities. And finally, of course, I gave him a 1 in luck. They don't call him Black Lung for nothing. For my tag skills, I took guns, speech, and survival. Guns are obvious, and speech I talked a bit about when discussing Arthur's charisma, but I chose survival as well because I'd like to avoid relying on modern medicine as much as possible. I know Red Dead has things like health cures and medicine and vigors and miracle tonics that you can use to restore your health, so I won't outright be banning things like chems or stim packs or the like, but being that the primary healing items in RDR2 are foods and drinks, I tried to rely mostly on food and drinks to heal during the run. With that in mind, survival not only affects what kind of meals you can prepare at campsites, but it also affects how well food you eat or drinks you drink heal you, so we want to make sure that my primary means of recovering my health are doing the best job that they can, especially since we're playing on very hard and I won't be wearing any armor for this run. More on that later. For traits, I decided to go with Trigger Discipline and Wild Wasteland. I considered Fast Shot since Arthur can belt off 6 rounds at the speed of a Gatling gun with his Deadeye, but decided Trigger Discipline was more accurate since Deadeye is more marked by the precision of the shots rather than the speed. Wild Wasteland I just took since you can find crazy stuff like aliens and vampires in Red Dead, so in that respect it seemed to fit. After robbing Doc Mitchell blind, I thank him for helping me, and then I'm off to the races. First off, I decided to do the whole tutorial with Sunny. She gets me a varmint rifle, which is one of the weapons Arthur has access to in Red Dead. One of the Goodsprings settlers that gets killed by the geckos we're hunting had a field hand outfit, which looks strikingly like Arthur's signature outfit. I get an opportunity to cook up something at a campsite, and it's just all around good XP. Also, side note, I'd mostly be playing through the game in third person since that's the default for Red Dead, and let me tell ya, third person sucks and my aim was atrocious. I'm just glad that Red Dead isn't exclusively third person, or I might have been screwed. Anyway, I agreed to help Ringo fend off the powder gangers because these folks in Goodsprings seem like folks that need saving, and that Joe Cobb feller seems like folks that need shooting. I level up and take heave-ho since I intend to use dynamite from Easy Pete to take out that gang of criminals, and I get everyone to pitch in for the fight. In a very Red Dead gunfight, I use my dynamite, my sturdy caravan shotgun, and my varmint rifle to kill off the powder gangers and claim my true prize. I considered siding with the powder gangers at first since they're outlaws like the Dutch gang, but not only is attacking and killing civilians out of character for a non-low honor Arthur, but also one of the powder gangers has a desperado hat, a hat that looks remarkably like Arthur's own iconic hat, so I decided to kill them all and take it for myself. This will basically be our outfit for the rest of the entire run, meaning we're playing through all of New Vegas on very hard with no damage resistance. God help me. After getting my reward from Ringo, I took out some more powder gangers I came across, killed any creature that attacked me for more food, fought the convicts in the Bison Hotel in an incredibly hard-fought battle that involved me abusing game mechanics of them not being able to leave the hotel because I was literally getting cooked alive, freed the incompetent Deputy Beagle to find out where Benny went, explicitly made sure not to restore order to Prim since myself and the law ain't on the best of terms, and I made it to Nipton where I gunned down Oliver Swank and decided not to sign my own death warrant by picking a fight with Volpes. On my way out of town, this poor bastard told me about how he almost got robbed of an expensive necklace he had, so I decided to rob him for that expensive necklace he has. I killed him using a 357 Magnum I'd picked up prior and my sturdy caravan shotgun, and after avoiding this ambush and taking out all the vipers that lied in wait like a den of snakes, I ambushed a couple of vipers that had killed me prior to this because they had automatic weapons, got jump scared by Malcolm Holmes, and killed both the vipers and Malcolm with dynamite. After clearing out a couple more vipers in the area with help from the Legion of all people, I had finally arrived in Novak. I took a quick detour to the Repcon test site to kill off a couple of ghouls, and that got me to level 4 where I took the Hunter perk to do more damage to animals so that I could get more food to heal with. At this point, after collecting lots of food and killing and robbing folks for loot to fence off for cash, despite my high strength, I was running low on carry weight, so I figured it was time to grab an ally. Someone to act as equal parts Tennessee Walker to carry all of my gear for me, and John Marston to watch my back like a brother. It's just my luck that there would be a gunslinger in town with the capacity to fill both of those roles. After having Boone drop Jeannie Mae Crawford and telling Boone about the bill of sales that I swiped from her earlier, he became an outlaw and joined my gang. With Boone at my side, I headed to the Repcon test site to clear it of ghouls for Manny Vargas, killed all the Nightkin trapping Harlan in the basement, confirmed that his friend was gone, took out David who was mad that I killed off his gang, and helped Jason Bright and his Chelonian weirdos shoot for the stars. Manny tells me where Benny headed off to, and then I begin my trip to Boulder City. Along the way, I took out some vipers for loot, killed and robbed the Lonesome Drifter for his mysterious magnum, and shot and killed Private Kowalski for being a little bitch. I'm told that Jessup, one of the guys that tried to blow my brains out, was currently hunkered down in Boulder City in a standoff with NCR troops, so Arthur, being reminded of a betrayal he suffered, dealt with Jessup and his Great Con buddies in the best way Arthur knows how. I interrogated Jesse for Benny's location, blew his brains out, and then let the Pinkertons mow them all down. Then began the long trek to Freeside, but after arriving, due to spending most of my caps at this point on food and ammo, I didn't really have nearly enough to get into the strip, so I did a glitch to sell a knife to the gunrunners a couple dozen times to get about 1,000 caps, and then I robbed the Van Graffs of everything I could, which got me to about 5,600 caps after I fenced off all of their stuff to the gunrunners. That's enough for the 2,000 cap check, but after seeing some of the guns available from the gunrunners arsenal, I now wanted enough caps to buy all of the Red Dead Redemption weapons I'd want for the run, like Paciencia and the medicine stick. To get my hands on that kind of cash, I'd need to resort to some extra-legal activities. First I tried blackjack, but with one luck that just wasn't happening, so then I switched courses to caravan. After getting the basic deck from Ringo, I went around and beat as many high cap players as I could until I had made about 3,000 caps, but I quickly ran out of big pots to win and decided instead to try to scam the NCR by getting Major Knight to repair all of my gear only to steal back all the caps I paid, but my sneak skill wasn't high enough to ever pull that off. When gambling and usury had run their courses and I still hadn't amassed enough wealth to get what I wanted, I decided to fall back onto Old Reliable. robbing folks. After I killed George for trying to shake me down and scam me, I barely made it to the Nellis Air Force Base and proceeded to rob the boomers of every piece of armor, every weapon, every single piece of ammo, and every scrap of anything valuable that they had. It was so much stuff that it took multiple trips, but by the time I was done, in addition to having over 100 pounds of food and more medical supplies than I'd ever know what to do with, I'd made a lump total of about 37,000 caps. Here's where things get crazy. I take those 37,000 caps to the tops, convert them all into poker chips, drop the whole stack, the stack overthrows and turns into a negative quantity of about 28,000 chips, and now I can turn these chips in indefinitely for infinite money. Now I've finally got enough cash to retire and become a mango farmer in Tahiti, but before that, I used said caps to basically stock myself up on weapons enough to rival an army, including revolvers, shotguns, repeaters, the medicine stick, and everything in between, and more ammo than you can blink at. With money no longer being an issue, the rest of the game from here is pretty much completely open to me, so I take this time to go on a unique weapon collecting rampage to get all of the gear I'd like to finish the game with. First, I murder old lady Gibson and her dogs for her big boomer sawed-off shotgun, a gun that would be a lifesaver multiple times due to one-shotting most enemies with a crit headshot at close range. Then I bought Paciencia from Cliff Briscoe and Novak, a great long-range weapon with respectable damage and great crit modifiers. And after that, I went after weapons I'd have to earn instead of just buying. Now, the only weapon I would actually get to add to my arsenal is Ratslayer, the unique varmint rifle from the Brockflower Cave, but I first set my sights on La Longue Carabine. The reason I never actually got it was because I thought its owner, Corporal Sterling at Camp McCarran, gave you the rifle for completing the 3-card bounty quest, but he doesn't. He just moves locations if you complete the quest. The only way to get the repeater is to kill him, and though I've got no qualms with killing someone just to get my hands on a good gun, as I've demonstrated before, Arthur isn't stupid enough to try to drop a federal agent right in the middle of a god-dang Pinkerton camp. Regardless, because of that mistake, I ended up doing the 3-card bounty quest in its entirety. Funnily enough, I had horrible karma from stealing so much stuff from so many people, but killing all of these fiends practically inverted my karma. It's like how killing unarmed civilians in Red Dead gives you negative honor, but killing Klansmen when they're doing their stupid little pep rallies actually nets you positive honor. I guess it's like Arthur's favorite Bible verse says, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Matthew chapter 5, verse 6. I beat Cook after an incredibly close fight that I only won thanks to copious amounts of food and drink for healing, the damage of my cowboy repeater, and Boone's invaluable help. Then in a complete flip, Boone and I easily take out Violet's dogs and send her out right after them. And then after killing some fiends nearby and nabbing the disassembled weapons shipment while looking for Driver Nephi, I stumbled across a Kazador nest and got swarmed. I decided I wanted to try to kill them all for experience points since my build was looking pretty Arthur Morgany at this point, so this would be Arthur's first real test of his abilities. After lots of eating and drinking and shooting and reloading, in what was probably the 3rd hardest fight in the entire run, I was finally able to take out all the Kazadors here just by the skin of my teeth. With that feather in my cap, I made it to the Thorn and considered doing the Bleed Me Dry quest for the Dinner Bell hunting shotgun, but ultimately decided against it since it just wasn't worth it considering all the trouble I'd have to go through, especially with the Death Claws. Instead, I went back to Camp McCarran, stole everything there I possibly could, and then, after finding out that I have to kill the Long Carabine's owner to get the gun, and at least trying to kill Corporal Sterling for the repeater, I instead set off for Brockflower Cave to get the Ratslayer, the last unique weapon I wanted for the run. Along the way, I came across a Legion Raider camp where I had to take out a bunch of hostile legionaries, which hurt my reputation with the faction. The Legion is probably the only faction that a lore-accurate Arthur would never work for, but it is still a little stupid that they attack me and I get in trouble for defending myself, though they probably only attacked me because Boone was with me, something that I'd figure out later. In any event, after heading into the cave and slowly but surely taking out all the rodents of unusual size, I leveled up to 10 and got the Run and Gun perk, an incredibly useful perk for this run, and I made my way to the little camp area inside and got the Ratslayer. This thing should be called the Deathclaw Slayer because of what this thing helped me to do later on in the run, but we'll get to that when we get to it. Since I had all the weapons I wanted, and was already 2/3 the way done with the bounty quest, I decided to turn in the bounties that I had, and then get the actual quest, which gave me the marker for Driver Nephi's exact location. In looking for Driver Nephi, I also stumbled across Vault 3, the drug vault filled with fiends and Motorunner, a fiend big shot leader. I decided that it couldn't hurt to take them all out for ammo, loot, and XP, and though it was really difficult due to a lot of them having automatic weapons or heavy energy weapons, Big Boomer's one-shot headshots made things significantly easier. After basically fighting my way through the entire vault using a various assortment of weapons, I made it to Motorunner and took him out with what is quite possibly my strongest weapon, Medicine Stick. At this point, I'd killed so many fiends, my karma went from Betrayer, due to stealing in excess of 10 grand worth of stuff, to Vegas Crusader. It was actually kinda crazy and honestly kinda reflected Arthur's own redemption in RDR2. The cherry on top was demolishing Driver Nephi and his goons with the medicine stick and turning in the bounty for the reward. With those loose ends tied up and all of my weapons of choice gotten, I decided it was time to confront Benny, but he gave me the slip and Boone and I had to brawl our way out of the tops, netting another level in the Gunslinger perk in the process. For as redeemed as Arthur is by the end of the game, I don't think he'd ever want to put Pinkertons in charge of people's freedoms, but he also wouldn't want an army of Micahs ruling either, and he definitely never envied Dutch and Hosea's responsibilities of leadership, so I don't think Arthur would go for the NCR ending, the Legion ending, or the Yes Man ending, but Arthur does work well as an enforcer and would likely enjoy the prospect of getting paid to help someone make everyone richer and safer, so I decided to go with the House ending. First, House wanted me to use the Mark of Caesar I got from Volpes to get to Fortification Hill to activate his secret robot army, and this is where I remembered that having Boone with you instantly aggroes the Legion. At first, I thought it was my shunned status with them, but I knew it had to be something else since shunned isn't that bad, and I had the Mark of Caesar, but when I dismissed Boone, I was able to make it to Caesar without any issues. I speak to Caesar, he sends me down into the bunker, I take out all the Protectrons and laser turrets with my hunting revolver and my big boomer, I activate House's army, and I decided to execute Benny with a machete since I don't think Arthur is cruel enough to crucify him, but he's definitely not foolish enough to give Benny a chance to fight for his freedom considering the consistent backstabbing, let alone help him escape. Now, a side note here for something I haven't mentioned yet, I tried to cure radiation poisoning as little as possible throughout the run so that the debuff I get from it could kind of act as Arthur's tuberculosis, but after spending so much time in that bunker, I was reaching lethal levels, so this was the only time in the entire run that I had to go to a doctor and get my radiation sickness treated. Well, with that quest completed and level 14 achieved, netting me the almost required for the run perk Cowboy, House sends me to enlist the help of the Boomers, so I fast travel over to Nellis and started helping them to improve my reputation. First, I agreed to help Loyal by fixing the solar panels. I get to Helios 1 and pick up all the spare solar panel parts, and then I repair the solar panels. Next, I listen to the history of the Boomers, and lastly, I agree to help Raquel. For the ants, I convinced Loyal to give me the sonic emitter, which I used to take out all of them with the push of a button. I'd gained idolized status already, but I also decided to help Jack and Janet get together because they remind me of one Miss Mary Linton and a certain stupid young fool I know. I got the bomber out of the lake, secured the allegiance of the Boomers, and now I was onto the Omertas. I quickly run through the quest by stealing Cachino's journal, blackmailing him, blackmailing Troika thanks to my high speech skill, killing Clandon since I couldn't really figure out what to do with him, and then, when the big Omerta bosses were having their sit down with me, I again flexed my speech skill muscles and had them turn on each other. Nero killed Big Sal, and then I sent Nero out the door right after him, which also got me a level up and the quick draw perk. Lastly, for the prep for the final battle at Hoover Dam, it was off to deal with the Brotherhood. Unfortunately, the route I chose was through Quarry Junction, so I get mauled to death by Deathclaws. I'm suddenly realizing why they're called that. But because I'm as stubborn as an ass, I continuously keep going back over and over in an attempt to brute force my way through the Legion of Lizards. It takes an hour and a half of going in and out of this house, shooting them with my hunting revolver, my rat slayer, shooting at them with my lever action shotgun until it breaks, swapping to my mysterious magnum and continuing fire, and eventually, in the last half hour, using a combination of my rat slayer, my mysterious magnum, and a Legion hit squad that came to murder me and found only Deathclaws, I fought my way through all the Deathclaws along the main road. If that Kazador fight from earlier was the third hardest fight of the run, this one was easily the second just due to the sheer amount of time it took, the amount of reloads I had to do, and the fact that a single mistake could have costed me my life. As my reward, I robbed the people of Sloan of about 1,000 caps, and then I finally arrived at the Brotherhood Bunker. I convinced Dobson to leave the area, and once the Brotherhood removes my bomb collar, I immediately steal the 3 passcodes and self-destruct the bunker. There's no way in hell that I could fight my way out of here, so I just pop a stealth boy and sneak out. Not very Arthur Morgan of me, I know, but there weren't many other options here if any at all. Now ready to wrap things up, House asks me to go to Hoover Dam and protect President Kimball from a certainly impending assassination attempt from the Legion. This is particularly ironic considering that it's my understanding that the Pinkertons ended up becoming the Secret Service after the Old West ended, so in essence, Arthur must briefly become a Pinkerton. I can't remember the last time I had high enough reputation with the NCR to do this quest, so I'm a little hazy on the details at first. First, I successfully stop this sniper from killing Kimball, but as he leaves, his vertibird blows up, and I remember that someone plants a bomb on it, so on my second time around, I get the jump on this engineer, steal his detonator, and then blow this soma bitch's head off. Finally, I secure the Eldorado substation for House's C3I broadcasting arrays, and now it's time for the second battle of Hoover Dam. With Boone and some Securitrons backing me up, I go from cover to cover and work my way across the dam with my 357 Magnum, my Rat Slayer varmint rifle, and my Big Boomer sawed-off shotgun, and after the Boomers did their part and dropped their payload from the bomber, I basically had to hunker down in a nearby building and one-man army last stand the rest of the incoming Legion troops, and with Boone's help and my constantly entering and exiting the building, I was actually able to do it. Beyond that, I use a stealth boy to get into the control room, install the override chip, sneak back out, and sneak past the remaining Legionaries to get to the final area of the game. With only the Praetorians left, I easily deal with them using my Magnum since they only have power fists, so I could just continuously back up and shoot them from outside their range. I haven't mentioned it yet, but I wanted to use Deadeye more often throughout this run, but the whole time I would just get this weird glitch where I would just stand there and do nothing instead of shooting my targets. It was very annoying and often costed me my life and a decent chunk of progress, so I honestly just didn't use it much. This was really the last time it affected a fight, so I thought I'd make mention of it here in case anyone noticed a distinct lack of Deadeye spam throughout the video. Regardless, I cleared out the Legate's camp of Legionaries before beginning the final confrontation, and though I tried to convince Lanaeus to give up or at least fight me without backup, even with all the available boosters like alcohol and speech bonus magazines, I was just shy of being able to pass the check, and then the hardest fight of the run began. The fight against Legate Lanaeus and all of his backup on very hard, with no armor, no automatic explosive or energy weapons, and with tuberculosis. This fight took over an hour, so giving you the simple version, here were the threats I had to deal with and how I dealt with them. First, Lanaeus is the only human NPC in the game that's faster than me due to his size, so unlike his Praetorians, I can't just back away and shoot him, and there's no way to zero his nearly 1,000-point health pool before he two-shots me, so my first obstacle was finding a place where I could shoot at him, but he couldn't reach me. I settled on this nearby ridge, which was a place I could get to and jump on top of while the Legate and his men tore Boone to shreds. The next obstacle was any Legionary that spawned in with an assault carbine, as their automatic gunfire could kill me nearly as fast as Lanaeus' sword could. I mostly defended myself by targeting them first, spamming healing, and using this piece of rebar as cover. I was dying so fast and so often during this fight that I finally decided to dip into my reserves of medicine and healing tonics, and not only did I pretty much run my entire stock of Stimpaks and Super Stimpaks dry in just this fight, having not used a single one prior to this, but I also pretty much ran out of all food, drinks, and chems, including my 30+ Sunset Sarsaparillas and my stock of nearly 100 maze. Eventually though, after using up all my 4570 government ammo, and then pretty much running dry all the ammo and conditioning for all my guns, I'd killed all the ads, most importantly the ones with the assault carbines. The last major obstacle was that, when those ads with those automatic weapons die, Lanaeus picks up their guns and then I have to deal with an automatic weapon being used by someone with nearly 1,000 health points. The solution I found for this was running right up to Lanaeus, using Big Boomer to shoot his gun with Deadeye, and then running away. The shot from Big Boomer is enough to break the gun so that he can't use it anymore, and because he picked up a single shotgun earlier, after dropping the carbine, he switches to that while I'm running away, and by the time the AI thinks to switch back to the sword and cut me down, I'm back perched on safety. The battle wasn't nearly as clear-cut as that makes it seem, but after about 30 saves during the fight, slowly but surely making inches of progress at a time, I finally defeat Legate Lanaeus. General Oliver wasn't too happy about my taking over the dam for House, and he didn't want to compromise. And I wasn't just about to let this walk-the-wasteland bureaucrat Pinkerton jackass talk to me like that. So I gave the general what's for, let my pals behind them do the talking to his rangers, I beat Fallout New Vegas, and I did it as Arthur Morgan. That was a blast! Since I started this script, I've played a lot more Red Dead 2, and while I still think that everyone massively overhypes this game, I'm definitely having a great time with it, and this run only made me enjoy it even more. Doing a New Vegas run on very hard, especially with no armor, was a lot more difficult than I expected, and I don't know if I want to do runs on very hard moving forward, but at least I can now say that I have the experience and was able to do it under suboptimal conditions, like only healing with food and water, and only using non-automatic, non-explosive, and non-energy weapons. I also want to make it clear, I'm probably not going to be doing any more Red Dead themed runs. They'd basically all just be different flavors of this, and I don't find that particularly interesting when there are lots more cool, different runs I can do for New Vegas, like Vash the Stampede, Mad Max, The Mandalorian, etc, etc. Well, I had a great time with this run, I'm having a blast with Red Dead 2, and so I can only hope that the things I've done in this run, the man I've become, they're things Isaac and Eliza can be proud of. Alright, thank you all so much for watching, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, consider leaving a like and maybe even subscribing to the channel for more Fallout New Vegas and character run content. Comment down below what other characters you'd like to see in Fallout New Vegas, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace!